I always say it's not my customer,
Yeah.
it's our customer. We as
Yeah.
an organization, the customer does not care that engineering is not responding.
Angry customers are not a problem. It's the customers that don't talk. Those are the problem. Those are the
You hit the nail on the head. Going back to Tesla, I've been on the phone for months. I'm not able to talk to a human. It will not put me through to a human person. Not so much how good a
yeah.
service was, but when you have a bad experience,
Yeah.
they will tell 10 friends. And guess what that will do?
Yeah. Welcome to you, and thank you for joining me on today's Thinkly Talk on the Customer Thrive Zone. I am so excited for our conversation.
Thank you, first of all, for having me. It's a pleasure being here. So thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to this. And we'll see what we get out of this session for all of us. So
Yes.
yeah.
I
I'm
have
looking.
no doubt we are all going to get a great amount of learning and life lessons, good conversation. I would just like to remind our audience that the Thinkly platform is meant for interaction, so make it a great interactive session. Sven is eager to answer all of your questions, support, success, and anything else related. So quick introduction here. So Sven Gerhard, my guest today, is a seasoned executive with over 25 years in customer support and customer success. You specialize in leading teams to achieve exceptional performance and customer satisfaction, and you have a proven track record in both remote and in office environments. So that has been crucial, especially given the pandemic that we just all came out on the other side of. So you excel at building scalable processes and driving operational efficiency, and you have significantly improved KPIs across various organizations, and your CSAT scores at Do It, 99.21%. Oh my God. Revenue growth for paid support programs at Tableau, going from 2.5 million to approximately 35 million in just 4 years. Oh my God, Sven, again. So you are clearly passionate about fostering a customer-centric culture, because without that, this would not be possible. And you are known for your strategic approach, your empathy, and also your effective leadership. So welcome again. And in your own words, please help us fill in the gaps. Tell us a little bit more about your career and how you ended up becoming the head of customer support and success.
Oh, that's a long story. Do we have time for this? Well,
We'll try.
yeah, sure. No problem at all. I mean, if you say all those things, what you just about me, I go back and I go, oh my God, I did do a lot of things and I
Yes.
did accomplish a lot of things. And it's because the passion that I have for customers in general. I mean, if I go back, well, a little bit about myself first, a little bit of a bio. My name is Sven Gerhard. As you can tell, I'm German, so it's a little bit of an accent in there. I immigrated to Canada long ago. I'm already aging myself for saying that I've been here 40 years in
Wow.
Canada and been in the industry, like you had mentioned, 25 years, but that's not where I started. That's
Yeah.
not where my career actually started. But it was always customer facing, and that is a thing I could never get away from. I love being with customers. I love making sure customers are treated well. And I can tell you a little bit about how I got to where I am today, if you want to hear it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely wanted you to share that, because in our conversations, what was evident to me was that you have been very determined. Your journey has been intentional. And you didn't start out in tech, but
Uh,
you've ended up in tech. So 100% want to hear a little bit about your journey.
Okay, so I originally started my journey, believe it or not, in the hotel industry. I'm a trained chef I did my apprenticeship in Germany, learning French and German cuisine. And coming to Canada in 1985, I actually was a chef. I became very early on, though, always somebody that was leading a kitchen brigade, leading the kitchen, leading a shift. So leadership for me started at the age of 16 when I was actually in my second year apprenticeship in Germany.
Wow.
And I always had one or two people under me that were a year below me. You trained them, you taught them what you had learned the year before. So, but it was in customer service. In the hotel industry, when you become a chef, you not only work in the kitchen, you also work sometimes the front of the
Yes.
house. You become a waiter or you help out serving people, etc.
Yeah.
So you were always customer facing. Well, I did that, and when I came to Vancouver, I became a sous chef, and that was my highest role in the kitchen industry. Became a sous chef for various restaurants, Sheraton Landmark or the Sheraton Hotel chain. I was a sous chef there my last 5 years of my career, and a total of 13 years being a chef. Now you wonder, how come a chef all of a sudden wants to go into computers? And to be honest, it was a little bit of an odd story or a weird story, but I had a really good friend and she was the operator in the hotel. So she was still answering phone and passing people around in the hotel to various rooms, etc. That's what she did.
Yeah.
And I always liked talking to her. And she told me, hey, I'm taking a computer course. I want to get out of this, what I'm doing today. So I was intrigued. I wanted to learn more about it. And she told me, and I thought, man, I always wanted to learn how to type. My sister was a secretary, and I was always impressed how quickly she can type. So that's something I wanted to learn. And I thought maybe that is something for me. And I asked her, how can I get into the industry? And she said, well, take a few courses first to even see if you like computers. So I took Lotus Notes, believe it or not. I did WordPerfect was one of the courses, and I loved them. These were offered by Vancouver school boards, and I took those courses, and I really fell in love. So I then started my journey going into the same course she did, and that was a course called for adults. It's a 2-year program, but it was done in 10 months. So very intense. You had to have a work experience of 7 years at least before they even accepted you. So I took it on and I did that, and I got my diploma in computer systems analysis. So a 2-year program in 10 months. But then I was looking for a job, not really knowing what am I going to do? I now know computers a little bit of SQL, a little bit of DBase back then. And what am I going to do with that? And I fell sort of back into my roots. And this is where customer service comes back in. Really, I thought I loved working with customers in the
Yeah.
hotel industry, front of the house. What can I do in the computer industry and technical support? That's where I then sort of went, maybe that's something I can do. Took me 6 months to find a job. It wasn't easy. I had to clean malls and office buildings before I found that job. But 6 months after I graduated, I got a job at Crystal Decisions. And it was the first Windows report writer in the world. And Crystal Decisions was well known, and they were looking for somebody in support. To be honest, I didn't make a lot of money. But I loved that job. It was phone support, it was fax support, it was bulletin board support. That's what I did there. And after 6 months, I moved up. I was asked to be a manager for a certain area. So I became a team manager. Having always dealt with teams and having had managed people, they recognized that is something I could do. And from there on, I did various roles at Crystal Decisions till it was sold. I was there for 12 years. And let me tell you what I did. I was in support, and because I spoke German, they asked me to go to Germany. I lived in Germany for 14 months doing sales engineering, where I literally try to solve customer problems and sell our product.
Yeah.
After the year was over, they asked me back and they said, Sven, we need somebody to lead the team in quality assurance. Are you interested? And I said, I know nothing about quality assurance, but I know the technology well enough.
Yeah.
So I became a team lead for one of the products. 6 months in, they asked me, hey, we need somebody to run actually all of quality assurance. And I became the manager for the quality assurance department. And I think I grew that team up to around 40 people, and I managed those. We were office-based back then.
Yeah.
Now, nothing is ever perfect, and I have to say, I did have a little bit of, I had a downfall after I was managing quality assurance. It wasn't customer facing, it wasn't my passion. And my CEO called me into his office. I wasn't sure what this was all about, but the CEO called me and said, Sven, we love you. You're a great manager. You're doing a great job, but we need to go to the next level. And quality assurance is not where your passion is. And I said,
Yes.
you're right. But to be honest, it was bad. I felt so demotivated. I wasn't happy. But they didn't fire me. They said, we see you being more successful with customers. So we have a brand new role for you and a team of 2, and we want you to lead customer escalations. And I went like, I know nothing about customer escalations. What am I going to do? So we started actually building an escalation team, and I managed this team globally. At the end, we were around 40 to 60 people globally. And I built that team from the ground up, putting processes in place, how to support our most important customers. And I can tell you, Intel at that point was our most important customer. They were the ones that say, we'll buy your product, but only if you have an escalation team. And that's how I went into that. And Intel did go down and we supported them, but it was a journey from there on. So I left that organization. Pardon me?
I said amazing, just amazing, even so far.
It
Go
was.
ahead,
And I did so many things, and I was working with so many cross-functional teams. And that's something I became very good at, working with sales, working with engineering. I was very closely aligned with the engineering team, support, because I came out of support. So I made sure those teams worked with each other to solve customer problems. So I was always top of the line. I left that organization and I went into consulting. And I did a little bit of consulting for a year for a company, again, leading consultants, finding work for them and placing them at customer sites, doing business intelligence. Business intelligence is where I come from. That's my bread and butter. That's what I love, that data analysis, visualization, etc. I worked there for a year, and I thought, why am I working for somebody else? I can do that myself. So I started my own consulting company doing the same thing. But to be honest, by that time, we're hitting 2008. And as you remember, 2008, it was a downturn in the economy and there were not a lot of consulting happening. I needed to find a job. And that's where a friend of mine contacted me and said, look, I'm working for this e-commerce company. They're looking for somebody to do account management and support. And I go, again, e-commerce, what's that? I mean, I knew of it, but I've never worked in it. So I actually started working at that company as a manager, managing the account team and support. And there's some stories in there. Do you remember the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver?
Yes, absolutely.
That company won the bid for running the Olympic store for Vancouver. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
and it was because of the e-commerce aspect that they had. So they only won it though, because they were the only ones applying for it. So there was nobody else competing. So we got it.
Yeah.
And I was managing the product. There were 2 companies in one. And at one point, and maybe I'm talking too much now, but please hold me back. But
That's
at one point, they pulled me in and said, look, our Olympic store, which I had nothing to do with, we were in the same floor, in the same office, but the
yeah,
Olympic store was run by others. And my CEO came to me and my boss and said, Sven, we need your help. Our Olympic store, we're not delivering, we're not sending out products. We need somebody to take control of the call center. And it was
yeah,
40 people. And I said, sure, sign me up. I run over and I'll fix that with you. And what we noticed very early on is, and the Olympic store was very important because it was an image that needed to be portrayed to Vancouver, that we
yeah,
know what we're doing, or the
yeah,
world really. And what I found out very early on is we had around 9,000 orders sitting there doing nothing. And the reason they were not doing nothing, the person that ran it, which I don't remember who it was, said, no, there were back orders. We wait for the back orders to come in and then we ship out the order. But a customer ordered 10 items. One item was missing. We waited for that one item. I said, no, scrap that, cancel any back orders, send everything out and make those customers happy. So we started shipping, everything was fine, but we had lots of escalations, believe it or not. And this is where my customer service comes in.
yeah,
We had customers in Vancouver that waited for their product. And I thought, look, we don't have it, but I know the Bay has that product.
yeah,
I walked to the Bay, bought that product for that
yeah,
customer, and hand delivered it
yeah,
for those customers in Vancouver. To me, that was customer service. So we were successful. We were moving on. I worked there for 5 years. Olympics, it was all good. And then after 5 years, I moved to a company as a VP of customer success to a company called Allocadia. Again, through friends that I knew, they were asking me if I could join the team because they were looking for somebody to run support, training, and customer success. And I said, sure, I had some experience even at Elastic Pass, the e-commerce company, doing some training,
yeah.
and they brought me on board. Now
These
that
are all technology forward organizations too, right? Even Crystal Decisions at the time, it was pretty
all
for, yes,
leading
leading.
technologies, and
Yeah,
Elastic Pass was this, Allocadia was that as well. But
yeah,
Allocadia was marketing. Again, I'm moving into an industry. I have no idea
never.
about
Yeah,
marketing, but it
yeah,
was a budgeting tool that was something in marketing. You have everything in spreadsheets, but that
yes,
tool was online. It was a SaaS product that lets you budget your budget online and allocate the expenses to it.
yeah.
So, sorry, my dog is in the trying to get in. I have to
He wants to join us. Come on, that's totally
talk.
fine.
She's here. She's here.
Okay.
So I ran that organization for about a year and a half, and then I was called up again by a friend of mine that ran, actually, he was the senior vice president of I don't know what the actual name was, but at Tableau. And Tableau is a visualization tool for business intelligence, for
Yes,
data.
yes,
Now, when he asked me to join the team to run part of the support organization, my heart just went fluttered. And I wanted to work there. I
yeah,
wanted to work there so badly, and I did get the job. And I started running their uh, technical support department, their technical account managers
yeah,
for within support that were actually paid support for customers. So you
yeah,
paid $50,000 a year, you got a technical account managers.
yeah,
And a town had usually 4, 5, 6 accounts that were managed.
yeah,
Now, when I started, it was 25 people. When I left, we were around 130. So within 4 years, and you mentioned it earlier, we grew that from around 3 million to 35 million over the
yeah,
4-year period. And we
yeah,
did that because we wanted to create something that customers really see value at
yeah,
and where the organization can also make money. So we started charging different levels. So I put something together with my team, a strategy on what can we sell, what services can we sell through technical account managers to make revenue. So monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue. And we had some of our customers actually paying $500,000 for technical account managers that
Yeah.
were sometimes living on site, so
Yeah.
in the office with the customers or being remote. And some of the big organizations were Apple, Walmart, even Tesla was part of that organization. And I was there, well, almost 5 years. So
Yeah.
till I then moved on, and we're getting closer to where I am today. So where I then moved on to a company called Security Scorecard. And again, a leading technology that is cybersecurity. And I knew
Yeah.
nothing about cybersecurity. Tableau, I felt like I'm coming home because I knew business
Yeah.
intelligence.
Right.
Where at Security Scorecard, I all of a sudden had a team, a small team of support individuals that were managing 30, 40, 50,000 tickets a month. But we're
Oh, wow.
talking about a handful. So it was a different type of support because we were really responsible for testing customers' web interactions
Okay.
and exposing holes or security flaws that we would then rate those companies with an A to F rating, like a credit score, where
Yeah.
we would say, you have various holes in your infrastructure that you need to fix. Here is ways you can fix them and you can get your ratings up. And insurance companies actually used us many times to say we provide insurance to companies, but only if your rating is an A or a B, otherwise the risk is too high. So I
Yeah.
was there for a year and a half. We managed thousands of tickets. We automated a lot of stuff, I have to
Yeah.
say, because automation was important. We need to be scalable. We had
Yep.
individuals that could do 1,000 tickets a day, no problem, but that was done a lot through automation. Then I was job hunted by a company called Do It. And
Yeah.
Do It is a reseller for AWS, Google, and Azure. So Microsoft, AWS, and Google's cloud space.
Yeah.
Again, I go, I know nothing about this. Why would you want to hire me? Well, we have a product and we don't have a customer success team. We do
Yeah.
have a support team that's very small, but we want somebody to streamline the processes within the organization, and we want our customers to utilize our product more. So I was brought on to do that for them. It was a lot of back and forth because I really didn't want to leave, but then they convinced me and I started at Do It in 2022. So as you can see, back to the roots of customer success, customer support, that's where my passion is. That's where I am. So, and there I had the CSAT you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Up to 99.21. And believe it or not, it wasn't an easy thing, but I think it was so important that, and the reason
Yes.
our CSAT was so high is because every time a customer gave us a bad CSAT, we reached out to them. We figured out what can we do better for you to ensure that we don't make that mistake again. I personally did that to all the CSATs. And the CSATs at times were converted to a good simply because we listened, we changed our processes, and we made it better for customers.
You
But
know,
that was my
you've touched upon such a key point here. One thing about being customer focused, it's one thing to say it, but actually doing it when things are not going well, when the customers are slamming you, it takes a different kind of fiber to be running towards the fire versus running away from it. And a lot of leaders like to hear good news. They're not very great with dealing with bad news. They know there's bad news, but they don't want to deal with it. And somewhere, some inconsequential person that doesn't have the ability to change things for the customer ends up being customer facing in those situations. And you have clearly demonstrated that the approach is always to, at the leadership level, handle the negative feedback along with the positive feedback. That changes minds.
It does. And this is something I've always believed. I myself, I get upset when I get a survey and the survey says, please provide us feedback. How was our customer service? And I'll give you a quick example. I used to own a Tesla. I loved Tesla. Always wanted one, had one, loved it. But service and things got so bad. And what I did is I always answered those surveys, leaving in the comments, I know nobody will read this, nobody will contact me, but here's my email, here's my phone number, please reach out. Guess how many times Tesla called me? Zero. Zero times did I get a response. And I was an extremely unhappy customer because of the service I received or the lack thereof. And I no longer own a Tesla, and I will not ever go back to a Tesla simply because of the bad service that they provide. Now there's other examples, but that is for me one of the biggest ones. And you know the rule. A customer, I don't have the specifics, but basically it goes as simple as that. A customer will always tell how bad a service was to many friends. Not so much how good a service was, but when you have a bad experience, they will tell 10 friends. And guess what that will do? It will sometimes run like a wildfire. And I believe that. The good ones, no. This is why I want to make sure in my profession, when I deal with customers, I listen to them. We try to turn them around. Sometimes you can't do it, and that's okay, but you tried at least. And the customers appreciate it. And I have so many examples of that from my early past, but it's going to take too long. So
well, service, as you said, and that's the topic of the conversation anyway, which is service, which drives the success for the customer and success for the organization delivering the service. So you've already highlighted how you've led both support as well as success organizations and at technology forward organizations. Again, these are not small names. The approach towards customers between customer support and customer success, is there a difference from your vantage point? Is there a difference in how down the org hierarchy, down where people are more operational, is there a difference in how you navigate interaction with the customers? And then I also want to call, so a lot of times people have perceptions, about what drives these metrics. You mentioned CSAT, and you mentioned, well, the other KPI that I've always heard about is NPS. Now that's a success metric. CSAT can be more an operational metric, is more an operational metric. So is perception a reality where support is often perceived as wanting to close cases for the sake of the metric, and then success has often been slammed for always prioritizing everything. Everything's a fire. Everything needs attention right this instant. And so talk to us a little bit about that.
I've measured many things in support. Let's just talk about support quickly. Support, you can measure a lot of things.
Yes.
Individuals, agents always figure out how to manipulate that particular metric, whatever it might be. So you really want to get to a point where what is important to you? What are you trying to measure? What are you trying to accomplish? So if you say to an individual, you need to close 10 cases a day, guess what? They close 10 cases. But what's the quality? What is the quality that they do for the customer? It's really around, that's where CSAT comes in, and NPS. That's what you should be measuring, in my opinion. How did the individual do? Yes, they may only close 2 cases today, but it took a long time. But that customer also got their case solved right from the start. So we're talking about first-time resolution. So I was able to solve that customer's problems the first time we talked to them, and not just pinging back and forth with the ticket.
Yeah.
I also believe that support is a very reactive thing. We are there to
Yeah.
react to the customer's problems.
Yeah.
I like to shift that, and I did that with Tableau, where we wanted to be proactive and
Yeah.
we wanted to reach out, let customers know, hey, you might have a problem there. So technical account managers went through the architecture and said, look, you're going to be calling us if we don't fix this in a month or two because of some of the issues, the way you set up your environment. And
Yeah.
that is being proactive. And the customer is more likely to stick with you because you solve problems before they even happened. That is
Yeah.
an important piece. Now, when you go to customer success, you talked a little bit about crying wolf. Well,
Yeah.
customer success manager, it depends if it's one that has 5 customers or 40 customers. They
Or
are this person's most important customers. Of course, they sometimes cry wolf,
yeah.
but there you need to work with the customer success team and say, look, I understand that your customer is the most important, but we need to be realistic. We need to prioritize tickets in a way that lets us get to an issue if it's really important very quickly. So let's not cry wolf.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we have prioritization of those tickets. And are you okay if we solve this within a week, within 2 or 3 days, or we solve that within an hour and prioritize that way? But to a customer success manager or an account executive, those customers are always the most important thing.
Yeah.
So,
So
and
yeah, go ahead. I don't mean to
no,
interrupt.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so definitely there is a need to make any customer feel like they are the only customer that you have, 100%. However, there is a process to be followed from a vendor perspective. You can't deliver promises to everybody. So that you need to follow, you have to go back to the basics. There is a process to be followed, but the way in which you deliver the service makes that customer feel like they are the only customer.
The customer needs to understand that there is priorities and there is
Mhm.
severities, and it is important that you communicate that with the customer early on.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have SLAs, so contractual obligations.
yeah,
Sometimes you have objectives, SLOs, so you're trying to
yeah,
do your best to get to it. But it is important that the customer knows this is what it is. And yes, we will get to you, but you need to ensure that you adhere to that for those customers. You may say, oh, severity 1, I'll get to within 10 minutes. You better
yeah,
be there in 10
yeah,
minutes. Processes in place
yeah,
to do that. And
yeah,
if there is a general question, sometimes answer it quickly too. That's okay. So you over deliver for that customer at that point, and that is okay. But the communication on what the expectations are for those tickets is
yeah.
important to be done or delivered to this customer. So now
And yeah, go ahead.
you let me say one more thing, because
Yeah,
you touched the topic that I've always said to my agents and anybody dealing with customer. The customer you're dealing with right now should always be the most important customer at that moment.
mhm.
And the customer should be able to feel that you will do anything and everything to solve their problem. And you need to do that. And I instill that in my team all the time. So
So true. And the customer feels what you are delivering. Customers are very perceptive. That said, very early on, you mentioned that you have always been able to work across the aisle, work with sales. You worked with so and so. So to deliver that commitment that we will have something for you in 10 minutes, you need an army of people that are connected, because it's not just the customer support person, not just a CSM, not just one department. It is the organization that a customer is expecting something from. So those internal relations go a long way. Yes, please go ahead.
they definitely do go a long way. I always say it's not my customer, It's our customer. We as an
Yeah.
organization, the customer does not care that engineering is not responding. You can tell that to the
Right.
customer many times.
Yeah.
They just say, you're the organization. I only care how the
Yeah.
organization delivers to me. I don't care who's in the back. That's
Yeah.
then your responsibility as the leader for success or support or wherever that communication is done. And I think the key point here is communication.
Yes.
Even if you can't solve the customer's problem, let
Yeah.
them know you're working on the issue. How
Yeah.
long will it take? Who is working on the issue? Who is going to be communicating to you by what time is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Communication is key with your customer. You can have an upset customer and their system is down
Yeah.
and you responded within 10 minutes, but then they don't hear for days. Guess what?
Yeah.
That customer is extremely upset. But if you let them know, look, in 2 hours, I'll give you an update where we're at. And the update can be, we're still working on it. We haven't found a solution, but we'll give you another update in 2 hours.
Yeah.
That is the communication is so key with customer success or support or sales. Doesn't really
Yes.
matter.
It doesn't
You need
matter. Yeah.
to communicate to your customers. That's something I did when I started I'm not going to mention names, at various companies. I
Yeah.
found tickets that are 2 years old, still
Yeah.
sitting there. Nobody has worked on them. Two
Yeah.
months old, 4 months old, a year old. Clean those up. Get back to the customer. Is it still a problem? Apologize for the ticket being slipped or through the cracks and why we haven't answered it. But
Yeah.
don't just let it sit there and nothing
And
happens.
yeah,
Go
it
to
is
your
what it
customer.
is. Yeah. The approach and the communication and taking control. It's okay. Customers will understand. They'll get it. Angry customers are not a problem. It's the customers that don't talk. Those are the problem. Those are the
You hit the nail on the head because those are the customers. When you write them and they start ghosting you, you
Yes.
lost that customer.
You've lost them
That will
100%.
be a
Yes.
churn risk. You need to be engaged. This is where customer success comes in. How do
Mhm.
you measure those customers that potentially churn for you? Because that is a key metric you need to start measuring. And
Yeah.
I see that in a lot of startups. They they get a customer, they sign the customer, and
Yeah.
then they forget about the customer.
Yeah.
There's nobody following up. There's a renewal in a year, 2 or 3, but the renewal conversation needs to
Yeah.
start on day one
On day
and
one. Yes.
not in a year from now.
The
So
first 90 days is the measure of whether your customer is going to be with you or quit on you. And I think it's
it's exactly.
entirely up to you to make sure that they stay with you.
And then the first 90 days is where you as an organization need to show the value. So this is where
Yes.
customer success or support is
Yeah.
vital because you want to make sure whatever issues they have, whatever questions they have, answer them
Yeah.
and teach them the product, customer success managers. And my last organization, they are the key to making sure the customer understand what the product can do, what
Yeah.
new features, what they can do for them. But
Yeah.
in order to figure that out, you need to communicate with that customer, trying to figure out what success looks like for them, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
talk to them, figure
Yeah.
it out, and say, look, why did you purchase the product? What problems are you trying to solve?
Yes.
Let me help you to try solve your problems. And while you do that, I can tell you so many more things that could potentially help you to be more successful with our product if you also incorporate these things. Let
Yeah.
me help.
Yeah. I think it's the reality that we all need to accept that the customer doesn't buy something from you because they like you, because you spoke nicely, they loved your presentation. No, no, no. They buy it because it solves a problem for them. And that's what we need to understand and actually help them make sure that they are able to solve that problem. And that's the whole success life cycle. So it takes a different kind of individual or somebody with a fiber that actually understands these customers. Of course, you clearly demonstrate your passion for getting your teams up and running, having the right mentality. I want to steer the conversation towards success metrics. How do you measure the impact of a success team? What from an operational perspective, you've highlighted some things that support. You can measure the success of a support team. For a success team, what are those metrics? How do you measure that impact?
That's a really good question. It's always a hard thing to do. So there's various tools out there, and then I can talk about Gainsight to Tango. There's tools like that out there that can help you with that. And I believe they're extremely valuable. Of course, you can create something yourself through a spreadsheet, through some automation, but you need to define what success looks like for those customers. When I started in my last organization, that was one of the things we were trying to figure out. What are we trying to accomplish? So you need to figure out what is the goal for the team. Now, when I ran customer success in my last role, they were really responsible not for renewals or cross-sell and upsell like they usually are. They were just there to make the customer successful within the product. And there we incorporated trying to figure out what success looks like. So of course you can measure how often did they log into my tool. Are they logging in? But that's a weird metric because I can log in and they were sometimes just logging in to look at invoices and that was it. Does that mean they're successful? No, you need to figure that out. And we created it was internally grown. We called it product health score. And the product health score went through various iterations where we, at one point, were incorporating things the customer success manager did. But that's not really what I wanted to measure. We wanted to measure how successful the customers are with our product. And are they going to be sticky enough to be with us in a year from now, in 2 years, etc.? So we started measuring login, but login within the last 30 days. From there on, have they created budget? Have they created attribution? What are they using the functionality? Are they creating their own reports? And those are the things we were trying to push as customer success managers with those customers, saying, here's some homework. Let me show you the product. And to be really successful, we have questioned a whole bunch of customers, and that's what they told us. If you do this, you're becoming successful. If you do that, you become successful. And we started measuring that. And what we did find is, because we were a small team, we were only able to manage some of the top tier customers, but we're able to find out if we engage with the customer and we start measuring the usage of the product health score, we saw an increase if they did have a customer success manager, 40% more usage of the product because we were there, we were guiding them, we were encouraging them, we told them about the feature, functionality of the product. And we saw that 40% increase compared to others that were just being told, here's a tool, use it. Nobody ever used it. You need to be there. You need to guide them. Now, like I mentioned, we were a small team, but we did want to touch all customers. How do you do that? And you do that through other various ways of like customer success management hours, where anybody can log in to be with you, can ask questions, videos that we send out to all of our customer base, letting them know how to use a particular function or feature, etc. But there's when their scalability came in and we had to think about that. But yeah, for us, it was the product health score that made us. Now, mentioning tools like Gainsight and Tatango, I used those in the past as well, and they're great tools, but they take they really can give you a better picture from other departments and other things, what is happening on how successful the customer is. And they can warn you, they can trigger emails, red lights, they can do so many things that can say, look, that customer is a churn risk. You need
Risk. Yeah.
to do something, and automation can send out emails reminding them, setting up calls, etc., whatever it might be. But there's other tools that can do that.
Do something. I think you hit the nail there, because churn also a factor of engagement, or of course the product has to deliver on the promises that were made for which it was acquired, but at the same time the engagement, the product health score, all of these end up being lagging indicators. I definitely want to mention here that it needs an investment from the teams in terms of putting the effort, putting the engagement, and all of that shows then in the product health score. And then churn. What, in your opinion, is the key reason for churn? In your experiences, are businesses dealing with churn like they should, or are they focused still on moving forward, making sure the sale comes in? We all know that it takes exponentially higher, it's exponentially longer as well as cost intensive to land a new customer versus retaining a customer that is already on board.
Retaining a customer. Yeah, churn should definitely be an indicator, but you need to follow up on the churn risk. So I want to go back to the product health score for a second. If we saw a customer's not health score declining, it's a risk. What do you do at that point? This is when you need to start having standard operating procedures and things in place, playbooks where you can say, if a customer falls below a certain threshold, even within Gainsight or Tatango, there is things you can do. There's playbooks you can set up, and reach out to the customer. Try to figure out what is going on. Why is the customer churning? Because they're unhappy. They're not getting the value. You need to be able to show the value that you provide to those customers. And you need to talk to the right customer, the decision maker. You could have a champion, he loves you. But if he's not the decision maker, you need to make sure you understand who the decision maker is and what success for that decision maker looks like, to be able to say, I want to repurchase that product in a year, 2, 3 years from now. And that is an important piece. There's many times where champions, they move on from an organization to the next, and you lost your one champion. That is a churn risk. You have to start from scratch, so you have to have multiples as well. It can't just be one person. So the tools I mentioned earlier are great tools that can highlight this. I mean, I remember that even if a customer is moving in LinkedIn from one company to the next, Gainsight, for instance, will let you know. I'm sure other tools do that too. Hey, your champion just left. Follow up. First of all, it could be a new opportunity, but you need to make sure that you continue having great relationships with the existing customers. So.
And keeping track. And for that, you need to be, again, in touch with the customer, be engaged, know what they are doing, know who is going where. Churn, yes, we typically measure churn from a revenue perspective or from the account churning, but people at an account churning, meaning leaving the customer to move to a different customer, 100% a champion moving on does impact the health score from the vendor perspective as well.
Yes, it does. It does.
So are vendors then handling churn the right way, in your opinion, or should there be more?
It all depends what their motivation is. Like I said earlier, startups, they think about churn later on in the life cycle. More mature organizations, they always think about churn, but have they really had the right processes in place to deal with that churn? So you need to make sure that you do have playbooks. If something happens, What do
Yeah.
you do? How do you get that customer back on board? How do you even know when a customer is churned? If you don't hear
Yeah.
from a customer for a long time, man, it's too late. At
Yeah.
that point, to get that customer back, you, yeah, it's
It's, yeah,
doing work.
exactly.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, but you also need to look at your customers' churn. Is it a customer that brings you 80% of your revenue or 20% of your revenue? How important is that customer? Is it an enterprise level customer? Is it a small business? Is it somebody that only spends $3,000? Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah.
spend that much time on that customer. I want to spend on the time customer that spends 20 million with me. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I have that relationship with them and I know when they are unhappy. So you always have to have a tap on your top customers that bring 80% of your revenue in. So those are the important.
Absolutely. Let's move to new technology. Like all of your experience has been, like we said, in companies that are so much on the leading edge of technology. AI, what do you see is the promise that AI brings to the field of support and success? And let's talk about the majority of where AI is also, right? It is early stages. There are definitely models in place in some way, shape, or form. We are already reaping the benefits of what AI is embedded in today. So it is imminent, but given its imminence and also given the maturity, how can organizations leverage AI and provide the scale that they need so that we can make the most in the day-to-day operations?
I'm no AI expert, I can tell you that right now, but I do understand it enough to know how it can be helpful in success or support. In my last organization, we created our own AI tool through ChatGPT, and we taught that tool a lot of great things. And one of the things where an AI can really be helpful in a support organization is really starting to answer some of the most common questions. You can train those tools to do that. So you can work with the support organizations and say, look, what are the most common questions that a customer has? What are the most common problems? And let AI answer those questions. Do let the customer know this is an AI tool. I mean, don't be open. Don't hide it or don't pretend that an agent is in the back. No. But this is where you become more scalable so that the agents can start tackling more deeper issues or more technical issues that AI cannot yet handle. So it could be within help, provide an AI that gives you then a list of things that they have seen. Train AI to go through your tickets that you have. Hook it up with that. And that's what we had done in the past. There's so many things AI can do that can help support deflect tickets. And I think that is a ticket deflection is such a big thing. It has always been. How can we make sure customers know about this? How do we make sure customers know the simple steps of doing this? Because they always ask us. I mean, there's product changes that could be done to make things better, but there's AI as well that can help you with that. So
are we at risk of losing the service mindset because AI is kicking a little bit as we embrace AI? Where does the service mindset reside? And I think you and I had talked a little bit about this, but I do want to bring this forward to our audience as well.
Who knows where AI is in 10 years from now, and maybe they will have a service mindset and maybe they understand it. But I believe humans still today do it much better. They can pick it up. And I know you can train the models, you can empathy, they can detect if a customer is upset and then model. You can do that, but I think a human can do it still much better. You can pick up a phone. be there for your customers. AI is great, and maybe in the future it can do it, but I believe there should always be an option to talk to a human, regardless.
Yeah.
And my team always was worried AI is going to take away my job, and they said, "Oh, not going to happen that quickly. Don't worry about it. You're still going to have a secure thing."
Yeah.
But my belief is always put technology out there, let the customer use it, let AI be part of it. Great. But give the ability for a customer to still get to an agent. Going back to Tesla, I'm trying to get a deposit back from Tesla, and I've been on the phone for months. I'm not able to talk to a human. It will not put me through to a human person. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm challenged, but
Yeah.
you need to have the ability to say, I want to talk to an agent that can solve my problem.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is still going to be around for some time. Future might prove me wrong, but for now, I think it's still going to be
Yeah,
there.
we can only focus on the now, right? What is, what may be, what like the hypotheses continue, but let's focus on the now. Let's focus on what's within our control. And as you rightly pointed out, AI is here to help, but it is not necessarily in a position to take away all our jobs. It is not quite that mature yet. I think everybody needs to, yeah.
Yeah, they need to understand it. It takes away the repetitiveness at
Yeah.
times of
Yeah.
your job. And trust me, you don't want to answer, how do I reset my password? Oh,
Yes.
let AI do that. And
Yes.
spend your time on more difficult cases,
Yes.
etc., for instance. So
100%. And I think even we as consumers benefit from AI, interacting with
wait,
AI. Yeah.
you get
It is
you get
fast.
the quick
Yes.
results. You don't
Yes.
have to wait on the phone. You don't have to wait in a queue of sorts because AI
Exactly.
is there and it can answer it quickly for you. So the customer service from that perspective can be much quicker. I agree with you.
Yes. And then as when you talked about scale, it allows us to take away the grunt work and push the burden of the repetitive tasks to a
Yeah.
tool and lets us focus on those that need a deeper dive, some analytical thought process, which we can do today versus a tool not having that capability today. The audience has been silent so far, but I am not going to let that deter us. We are pretty much at time, Sven. I do want you to share a couple of things. There was something I meant to ask you earlier. Maybe work that into your answer. There's two things. One, what keeps you going? What gives you that courage when oftentimes it is that sinus wave, isn't it, of seeing great results from our successes, from our work. You put a process in place, this SOPs that you put in place, and you see success from it all. And then there's a downfall, there's a pitfall, and then you hit a saturation point, something. What keeps you going through all of that? And then a success takeaway. What would you like folks to leave with from today's conversation?
Okay, now I'm a little bit scrambled in my head. Well,
Yeah.
a quick takeaway for
Yeah.
always, and I mentioned it earlier, always treat your customers like you want to be treated. So keep that in mind. Make that customer the most important customer there is. Let them feel like you're there for them. If there's an escalation or if there's an issue and you do not have the answer, don't just pump it off to somebody else. Take the rein, work with that customers, find them the solution and get it to them, solve their issue. You might not be the one that solves it, but find the people that can. That was one of them. And go back to what was the other question? The first
The other
one.
one, what keeps you going? What
Oh,
keeps
what keeps me
you
going?
you're so passionate about what you do, but what keeps you going?
I don't know. I like to see my customers being successful. I like to see individuals in the organization being successful. I like to build. I like to improve things, make things better. And I was once told by HR long ago, Sven, you're a builder. You're maybe not a finishing carpenter, but you're a
Yeah.
builder. You know how to build and get
Yeah.
things going, and then you move on to the next aspect. I love building. I love building teams. I love making people successful. And that's with customers as well. you have no idea how you can influence a customer's journey at that organization, making them successful. But keep that mindset in you, that you sometimes are responsible for their promotions, for their success. Work with them, and they will be a lifelong customer. And that could be then one individuals or a group of individuals, but they will be maybe not friends, but they will be there for you. If you make them successful, they will make you successful.
I can't say anything that is better than that. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem.
Make lifelong customers. If you make your customers successful, they will make you successful. What a great takeaway. Thank you again for joining me today, Sven. And I totally look forward to continuing this relationship, this conversation that we've built over the past few weeks forward, and wish you much success. And to our audience, thank you for joining as well. And if you have questions, comments for Sven, please drop them in chat, and I will forward those on to him so he can answer them for you when he gets a chance. So thanks again. Have a great day, everybody.
So much. You have a wonderful day as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been a fantastic experience. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.